Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? Excuse me, this is Chazzy and welcome back to What's the Damage, the good old WTD question mark here on my channel. The segment on this channel where I can unleash all of my inner rage and anger and sadness and sorrow, all the negative emotions that come with being a human being in today's day and age. And today is going to be my very first WTD video related to baseball, you know, and as the title and thumbnail already gave away, it's going to be quite a doozy, you know. This is going to be very hard to talk about because there's a lot of information, but I can't imagine how hard it was to live through it, to have been there, you know, when this happened, man. Holy frittata, bro. I'm going to be talking about the longest professional baseball game in history. Not the longest MLB game, by the way. That's different. That's a whole different topic, you know. This was actually in the minor leagues, you know, in the AAA International League between the Pawtucket Red Sox and the Rochester Red Wings, you know. And this game happened in 1981, and it was historical for a number of reasons, mostly because it was the longest game ever, you know. Maybe you guys have heard of this. Maybe you haven't, you know. Maybe you just like the major leagues, you know. You don't care about the minor leagues too much, but you guys know that a typical baseball game lasts 9 innings, right? You know, it's sometimes there'll be an extra 1 or 2, you know, but usually they last anywhere around 9 innings or so. Well, this one had 33 freaking innings, man, that were played across a total of 2 months, right? Not exactly in that way that I just said it, because the game started on April 19th, 1981, right? And it went on, you know, until April 19th, you know, and then it ended on June 23rd because they took a break and came back to finish it, you know. But all in all, the game lasted for 8 hours and 25 minutes. 8 hours of baseball, bro. Holy freaking crap, man, you know? Like, damn, it's like freaking... And eventually the Pawtucket Red Sox, they won the game 3-2, you know? But it was so freaking painful, man, because the Red Wings got a run in the 7th inning, you know, it's all good. But then later the Red Sox came and got an inning and got a run in the 9th inning, so they tied it up. And then on the 21st inning, you know, again, you know, one of them pulled ahead, but then they tied it, so it was now 2-2. And way later in the 33rd inning is when the freaking Red Sox finally scored the winning run. I cannot imagine watching a baseball game for almost 8.5 hours, man, you know. And it's funny because the attendance when the game started, there were 1,740 people present in the stadium to see them play, you know. And by the end of the 32nd inning, there were only 20. At the end of the... Like, imagine all of those people went, like the people who stayed, by the way, some of them were given lifetime, you know, tickets, season tickets to see baseball because holy crap, they deserved it, right? But then when the final inning was played, you know, on June 23rd, then for some reason there were, you know, 5,746 people in attendance, you know. I guess they knew that it was historic. And on that occasion, the game only lasted 1 run for 18 minutes, you know, and then the Pawtucket won. So it was insane, man. It was crazy. And this game is in the minor leagues, but because it was so historical, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything online like photos or videos, but if I can find anything related to it, I'm going to show it to you guys right now. Alrighty, hopefully I was able to give you guys something there from this historical day. Now, here's the funny story, right? The game actually started, you know, on April 18th at 8:25 p.m. and it was actually delayed 30 minutes because of problems with the stadium lighting, you know. And now, normally leagues back at the time had a curfew rule, you know. In the case of the International League, you know, it actually started at 12:50 a.m. So 10 minutes to 1 in the morning, the games would stop regardless of the score because they had to, you know, cut it off and play later so it doesn't get too long. But funny enough, the umpire, the plate umpire, Dennis Craig, you know, his copy of the rule book didn't have that rule. It didn't mention this cutoff time, so they just kept playing, you know. It went early on to the next morning, you know, which was Easter, you know. Bro, it was insane. And that game was crazy because, like, it started to get cold, so some of the players had to actually burn baseball bats to stay warm, man, you know. It was insane. Like, I've never been to Pawtucket or Rochester or any of these places, but I can, Pawtucket is in New England, isn't it? I don't know, but still, I cannot imagine it being so cold. And it's funny because You know, one of the players actually, several times they would come close to winning, but the circumstances would change. You know, there was very bad wind in the stadium as well. So there were about 4 or 5 hits that would have definitely gone out of the park and won the game for one of the teams. But unfortunately, the wind kept the ball in field. So it's almost like nature was playing a prank on them, and it was crazy. One of the players actually got a run, you know, to tie the game. And the players on his team actually groaned, man. He didn't know if they were going to hug him or slug him, you know, like punch him, because everybody was just peeved, you know, because like at that point you're like, just surrender, forfeit, and let the other team win, you know. But it just kept going. It just kept going and going and going. And I actually have some really interesting tidbits of info here, right? The game should have been suspended because of the curfew, but still, man, I guess they just kept going. So there were so many records, you know, throughout that game. And also there was, for example, this one player hit a fly ball to center that supposedly left the field before the wind blew it back in, right? So there was actually quite a few records, like 0 for 13 and 15 plate appearances, but we're going to get to that later. And it's really funny because one of the players actually was relieved, you know, 3 a.m. on Sunday. His wife didn't even believe his story that he was playing baseball, you know? So he was actually waiting for the news to come out in the newspaper or on TV or the radio for him to validate his story. His wife didn't believe him, dude. That's actually kind of funny, you know? It's... Jesus. But then again, because the game was postponed, the news wouldn't happen until the Monday edition of the paper, so I can imagine it was a really tense situation with his wife, you know. But still. Now, by the time 4 a.m. came around, the players were just delirious and exhausted, you know. And you might be thinking, well, then maybe they just ended the game because they were all tired as hell and dying. No, that's not what happened. That is not what happened. But there was actually a moment where one of the players had caught the first 31 innings before being replaced, you know, and then another player pitched 10 scoreless innings from the 23rd inning onward, you know. He struck out 9 and gave up 4 hits, right? So it was a pretty impressive, you know, run for some of the players there. But the president of the league, who was called Harold Cooper, he was actually called on the phone sometime after 3 a.m. He was horrified and he ordered the game to be stopped, you know. It's like, how the hell have you guys been playing for 8 hours, man? Just stop playing the freaking game, dude, you know. At that point, there were 19 fans left in the seats, bro, you know, which again, they received, you know, season or lifetime passes, you know. Some of them were asleep, and I think it was really funny. And here's the crazy part. Some of the players were going home, you know, returning at around 11 a.m. for an afternoon game on Sunday. But when they were leaving the stadium, they saw some people going to the sunrise service, you know, or they were going to church for the Easter service. So, I mean, bro, it's insane, man. Like, imagine you leaving work and seeing people go to work or go to church or something, you know. But yeah, man, so both teams, they went on to sign a baseball that was actually on display in the Hall of Fame. Still is there today, you know, this and that. So there was a celebration. But it was still crazy. You know, I think that the umpire probably never attended a baseball game. There were some players who probably never played baseball again in their lives, because that was traumatizing, dude. And there were some more statistical aspects of the game, some more records that I'm going to share with you guys right now. But first, I want to see if I can get something here, you know, if I can maybe put in some more photos or even a video if I can find it, you know. It was in 1981. It's not that long ago, so I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can find something here.
The longest game in baseball history. They played 32 innings that night, spent 8 hours in frigid cold, and still, nobody won. Around 4 a.m., the league president ordered them to finish it another day, which they did. In just 1 inning, Pawtucket finally took it in the 33rd by a score of 3-2.
Alrighty, hopefully I was able to give you guys something worthwhile there. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the video, you know, the game actually took over 2 months to finish because the Red Sox had to wait for the next time that the Red Wings were in town, you know. So a little over 2 months later, on June 23rd, that's when they came back and when they finished the game. And now, like, there was a sellout crowd of over 5,700 people, like I said before, and also 140 reporters from around the world were present because, well, it was a very crazy game for one thing, and also the MLB, the major leagues were on strike at the time, so the minor leagues were all that they could watch, you know, so there was extensive coverage of the game, you know. It was crazy, man, and I can only imagine the pain that everybody went through because aside from the players on the field having to burn their own bats and also the wooden benches, you know, to keep warm, bro. There were no more food in the clubhouses. The food eventually ran out, man. So nobody could eat anything, not even the spectators, right? So it's so insane to imagine somebody still being there even after 8 hours, man. You have to really love your baseball team, a minor league baseball team at that, you know? I don't think people in the major leagues would stick around for a game that long, man. It was freaking bonkers. You know, like, I don't know, like, like my favorite sport is basketball and I support the Lakers, and I don't even know if I could stomach an 8-hour game without stopping, bro. You know, I just can't, you know, even if it's football, the Miami Dolphins, you know, I can't. I cannot stomach 8 hours of the same sport, you know. Some people were falling asleep and they were rewarded. So yeah. Now there were some interesting statistics in that game, you know. So for example, Russ Larby, you know, of the Pawtucket Red Sox, right? He went 0 for 11 in that game with a sacrifice fly, and he struck out 7 times, thus becoming the first player ever in baseball history, you know, to surpass the 6 strikeout level. And he did it in the minor leagues, so that was, I don't know if that's more or less impressive, I don't know. And based on a 9-inning game, he would only have struck out 3 times per 9 innings, right? Now, between those two teams in that game, the pitchers faced a total of 246 batters. God dang, man, like pretty much everybody batted in that game. Even the coach probably batted, right? And a grand total of 882 pitches were thrown throughout those 8 hours and 25 minutes, man. Freaking insane. Then also Dave Colza of the Pawtucket, right? The Pawtucket team, he had the most hits of any player in the game, you know, which were 5, including the eventual game winner, you know, which is bonkers as hell. And there were also a total of 53 runners that were left on base, you know, 30 for Rochester and 23 for the Pawtucket, right? So now the only player on either team who didn't play in the game was Kevin Kennedy of Rochester, who eventually would become an MLB manager. And before I tell you guys the records, you know, get this. The game had a total of, you already know that the Red Sox won 3 runs to 2, but there were also a total of 21 hits for the Red Sox and 18 for the Red Wings, as well as 1 error for the Red Sox and 1 error for the Red Wings, you know. And now we get to the cool stuff, you know, the personal records set in that game. Obviously, the most innings, you know, with 33. That's like, I don't think any team will ever come close to that, you know. Fun fact for you guys, the longest MLB game, the Major League Baseball game, was back in 1920 with 26 innings, you know. This one went ahead by 7. God dang. And also the total time for one game, 8 hours and 25 minutes. You know, there's no arguing with that. It's obvious. And the most putouts by one team in one game, which were 99, right? A putout in baseball is, it's kind of like, it's awarded to the defensive player, you know, who has the most secure possession of the ball, you know, so basically like getting outs. And the most total putouts in one game in total with 195, you know, counting both of those teams. And also the most at-bats for one team in one game with 114, right? So, and at-bats is when a player goes up to bat, right? And the most total at-bats in one game total with 219, which was crazy. And also, here we go, the most strikeouts by one team in one game with 34 while they were batting, you know, so the most times a player got struck out. And combining both of them, the most total strikeouts in one game with 60, you know? So, holy crap, bro. And also assists, right? The record for the most total assists in one game with 88. All right. I'm still not sure how assists work in baseball. I'm still understanding how that is a thing, but still, the most at-bats by one player in one game with 14, you know? Actually, 3 players got that record, you know, all of them playing for Pawtucket. And the most plate appearances by one player in one game, which were also 3 players with 15, you know, and all of them played for Rochester. And we also have the most strikeouts by one player in one game with 7, you know, which was Russ Larby, right? And the most batting strikeouts, you know. And finally, the longest plate appearance by a single umpire, which was the now legendary Dennis Craig with 882. My God, man, holy freaking crap. My God. That is way too much information, man. And I think I'm actually going to wrap the video up here because that's essentially it, you know. Oh, and it was actually played at McCoy Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So it's the same place where Family Guy takes place. Look at that. That's why I associated it with New England, you know. I wonder if Family Guy ever made a joke about this. I'm going to look it up on YouTube later. But yeah, that's it, bro. That is it. There's a freaking wasp outside trying to get inside, but my window is closed, so go to hell, you stupid insect. This was insane, man. I cannot imagine. If you were there, by the way, and you're still alive, if you were there at that game and you come across this video, please drop a comment telling me what it was like, because I cannot imagine being at a baseball game for 8 hours. Well, a lot of people make fun of baseball for being way too long, for all of the innings and stuff, but this took it to an extreme level. I don't think the most hardcore baseball fan will be able to stomach this, you know? Holy freaking crap. It's like that other video that I did some time ago, earlier this year, about the longest victory in the NFL. The biggest loss, something about that. That game also was crazy, but this was insane. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I was able to give you some good stuff, you know, whether it's photos or videos and whatnot, you know, whatever I was able to offer you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you happen to enjoy it, then please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel, because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too, so you can know exactly what time I upload, and it is all good. It's all good. I'm gonna go because I'm tired as hell, man. Just talking about this was exhausting. Oh my jeezums and crackers. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video, which I promise will not last 8 hours. Roll the very short outro screen.